Serotonin, or 5-hydroxytryptamine, is a very important neurotransmitter which resides primarily in the brain, bowels, and blood platelets. Like many other neurotransmitters, serotonin functions by transmitting signals across the synapses of neurons to a target cell at very high speeds. There are over 100 different kinds of neurotransmitters which range in their excitatory and inhibitory effects. Serotonin is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that is used to modulate sleep, emotions, appetite, body temperature, and mood, where it has the potential to lead to depression and anxiety. Serotonin has a variety of other functions, but for the purpose of keeping this video short, I will refrain from discussing these. Most of the serotonin in the body is found in the stomach and intestines, where it helps control bowel movements. It can cause you to feel nauseous by stimulating part of the brain as a means of excreting harmful foods in the form of diarrhea. This can also result in emesis or vomiting. More fascinating, however, are the effects that serotonin has on the brain. Serotonin functions to impact your mood, emotions, cognitions, and even your motor skills. Being a natural mood stabilizer, it is capable of countering the impacts of anxiety and depression. In order to take effect, the presynaptic neuron must undergo an action potential. When this action potential reaches the end of the axon, it initiates the exocytosis of vesicles containing the chemical messenger serotonin. Serotonin crosses the synaptic cleft and binds the receptors on the postsynaptic cell. This causes the postsynaptic neuron to depolarize and undergo an action potential as well. After the postsynaptic neuron is excited, serotonin is reabsorbed by the presynaptic neuron. The serotonin receptors on the postsynaptic cell determine the body's response to serotonin. There are a variety of different serotonin receptors. In fact, there are 7 different classes and a total of 14 receptor subtypes. Most of these receptors are G-protein coupled receptors, which, when activated, lead to a signal transduction cascade within the cell in order to produce the intended effect. The 5-HT3 receptor is the exception to this trend, in that it is a ligand-gated cation channel. These receptors mediate both excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmission by regulating the release of neurotransmitters such as glutamate and GABA. They also play a role in mediating the secretion of hormones like oxytocin and cortisol, just to name a few. Hopefully this helps to give you an idea of the vast range of effects serotonin can have on the body. Serotonin receptors can be classified as type 3 integral membrane proteins. They are composed of 7 membrane-spanning alpha helices, and these alpha helices are kept in close proximity to one another through the presence of beta turns. Glycine residues in specific locations allow for the chain to abruptly switch directions because of the flexibility of this amino acid. These receptors can be found in the cell membrane of nerve cells. The amino terminal faces the extracellular side of the membrane, while the carboxyl terminal is located on the intracellular side. The orthosteric site in serotonin receptors is the primary binding site. This site is occupied by the indole ring possessed by ligands of the receptor. Common ligands include serotonin, lysergic acid diethylamide, or LSD, ergotamine, and dihydroergotamine, all of which contain an indole ring. These molecules are all synthesized from the amino acid tryptophan, which is the source of this indole ring. A conserved aspartate 135 residue in 5-HT2 receptors functions to anchor the charged amine portion of LSD, effectively forming a stabilizing salt bridge. Research has shown that mutations to this residue drastically reduce the affinity for ligands containing this amino group. The valine 136 residue also plays a prominent role in this binding mechanism by 5-HT2 receptors. As I mentioned before, the psychedelic drug LSD can bind to serotonin receptors. LSD specifically binds to the 5-HT2A and 5-HT2B receptors, affecting perception and leading to hallucinations and synesthesia. These hallucinations impact both interior and exterior perceptions. LSD's ability to introduce transient thought disorders, perceptual and visual hallucinations, and even delusions in certain individuals has led to increased support for its utilization as a research tool in order to help scientists better understand schizophrenia. The interaction of LSD with these 5-HT2 receptors produces agonistic effects on serotonin receptors in certain tissues, causing the release of excitatory chemical messengers and leading to abnormally high levels of stimulation in certain processing areas of the brain. Some of the crucial side chain residues that allow for this binding event to take place in 5-HT2B receptors are aspartate 135, valine 136, leucine 209, aspartate 216, phenylalanine 217, and glycine 221. Maintaining appropriate serotonin levels in the brain is a crucial component of many psychological and physiological functions of the body. Low serotonin levels, which can be caused by stress, have been correlated with depression, anxiety, and increased pain sensitivity. The relationship between serotonin and depression is not well understood, but research suggests that it has to do with the depletion of tryptophan. Low serotonin levels can also result in sleep disruptions and fatigue. High serotonin levels affect the body on a physiological level, and if medical attention is not sought out soon enough, this can lead to death. Symptoms include shivering, diarrhea, muscle rigidity, fever, seizures, and irregular heartbeat. Increases in serotonin can be due to serotonin reuptake inhibitors or over-the-counter supplements that increase serotonin in the bloodstream. Normal or slightly elevated serotonin levels are associated with feelings of happiness and relaxation. These levels allow for necessary bodily processes, including the regulation of body temperature and appetite, to take place. The majority of research regarding serotonin has been in the area of neuropsychiatric drug discovery and treatment of affective or behavioral disorders. Drugs either target serotonin receptors or serotonin itself. Depression, schizophrenia, and migraines are among some of the primary aversive conditions related to serotonin. One way depression and anxiety is treated is through the administration of antidepressants, such as serotonin reuptake inhibitors and selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SRIs for short, function by blocking the action of serotonin transporters. This allows for more serotonin to be present in the brain and can eliminate the deficits that accompany social anxiety. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, have a similar mechanism of function, but maintain greater specificity as their name implies. The involvement of serotonin receptors, such as 5-HT2A, in schizophrenia was initially realized due to the schizophrenia-like symptoms induced by antipsychotic drugs, as well as hallucinogenic drugs, such as LSD, upon binding to these receptors. This is an exciting field of study, and while the exact cause of schizophrenia has yet to be determined, expression levels of serotonin receptors and interactions with these various drugs has allowed for progress and hope for the future. And last but not least, serotonin is one of the major brain chemicals involved in migraines. Stimuli such as stress, lack of sleep, or physical exertion can set off a chain of neurological and biochemical events that can affect the vasculature of the brain. Drugs containing ergotamine are used to treat migraines via constriction of blood vessels. As mentioned earlier, ergotamines contain an indole ring that allows them to bind to serotonin receptors in order to induce its effects. The potential of serotonin and its various receptors as a drug target will continue to spur the movement towards creating more effective pharmaceuticals to help treat neurological issues and disorders.